so much for staying here on the Joy News channel. I'm Bernice Abubidu Lansa. We'll take you now to the NDC's headquarters, where the 4th edition of the Moment of Truth Forum is currently underway, and the NDC is addressing what they call government's failed fight against illegal mining.
They have the freedom and encouragement to engage in brazen impunity and get away with it, all because of the Sino-Hydro commercial transaction. Ladies and gentlemen, the decision of the Akufo-Addo government to trade our laws, our environment, our resources, and our lives for the $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal, which, by the way, is not even a grant, but a so-called barter arrangement in exchange of proceeds from our bauxite, is an insult to the sovereignty and dignity to us as a people. Let me take this point again, ladies and gentlemen. The decision of the Akufo-Addo government to trade our laws, our environment, our resources, and our lives for the $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal we submit is an insult to our sovereignty and dignity as a people. You see, Ghana is a sovereign country. And as a sovereign country, we have laws. And everybody in this country is supposed to abide by those laws. The law is not a respecter of persons. Article 17 of the 1992 Constitution is very clear. So, in enforcing the law, there must not be any discrimination. That because one is from China, he can get away with the brazen impunity of violating our laws. But when it comes to Ghanaians, they can be shot and killed, they can be prosecuted and jailed, and so on. That thinking is terribly offensive to our sovereignty as a people. It is an insult to our sensibilities as a people. And you see, this $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal, this government has been celebrating as the best thing ever to have happened to Ghana. As we have already indicated, it's not even a grant, but a commercial transaction. It is not free money. Sino-Hydro is in Ghana to do business and to make profit. Over the weekend, we listened to the chairperson of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, Mr. Ken Ashide, who explained the extent of damage that the activities of Chinese involved in illegal mining have done to our environment. According to him, it would take a whopping $38 billion to rehabilitate the land or to reclaim the land, our lands, and forest reserves, which have been destroyed by the activities of illegal miners, including Chinese. So even if the Sino-Hydro deal was a free gift, it will still not entitle the people of China or any foreign national for that matter to violate our laws and get away with it, because we are a sovereign country. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, unlike the shameful and irresponsible Akufo-Addo government, another African country, specifically Tanzania, recently prosecuted Yang Felan, a Chinese businesswoman nicknamed the Ivory Queen, and sentenced her to 15 years imprisonment for smuggling hundreds of elephant tusks. This one, we are not talking about gold, we are talking about elephant tusks. This woman, who has served as vice president of the China-Africa Business Council of Tanzania since 1970, was prosecuted by the Tanzania authorities and jailed for 15 years. Unlike Ghana, Tanzania chose not to sacrifice their laws on the altar of their trade relations with China. Without any fear or equivocation, they cracked the whip on Yang Felan and sent a strong signal to the world that China is not ready to countenance the flouting of its laws by foreign nationals. We submit that by discontinuing the criminal trial of the Galamsey Queen Aisha Wine, Ghana lost a golden opportunity to deal decisively with the menace of illegal mining in a way that deters foreign nationals from flouting our laws. Ladies and gentlemen, on the screen is a story filed by BBC, which captures what we just alluded to: the prosecution and the conviction of the Chinese Ivory Queen Yang Felan few, days ago. And so the Tanzania government clearly chose their laws and their environment. They chose the preservation of their wildlife over and above their trade relations with China. Because yes, China is a good ally, and we respect our relationship with them. We thank them for their investments in Ghana and so on. But the Chinese government itself will agree with us that that is that does not give the people of China the right to come into our country, destroy our water bodies with mercury and other mining chemicals, destroy our environment, our forest reserve, and so on, create problems for us, problems that we are struggling today to deal with, and get away with it. I'm not sure that the people of China themselves will be happy with that. And so President Akufo-Addo and his government have a lot to learn from the Tanzania government. But, ladies and gentlemen, does this mean that the mere fact that the Tanzania government prosecuted and convicted this Ivory Queen Yang Felan, China was going to sever their dealings, their trade dealings and investments in Tanzania? Emphatically, no. As a matter of fact, as you can see on the screen, and this is a story which was filed just 6 days ago, just a few days ago, November 19, 2018, sorry. Here it says China aims to increase investments in Tanzania. This was after the conviction of Yang Felan. It hasn't stopped the Chinese from dealing with the people of Tanzania. So why does the Akufo-Addo government think that the prosecution and the conviction of Aisha Wine would have in any way hampered our relationship with the people of China? It simply doesn't make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, it has to be emphasized that recent remarks by the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Mr. Shi Ting-Wan, on the menace of illegal mining in Ghana stand in sharp contrast to the condescending and despicable comments of Mr. Yao Osafo-Maafo. Unlike our senior minister, His Excellency, the Chinese ambassador, acknowledged the devastating effects of illegal mining activities in our country and pledged China's readiness to help curb this canker. The ambassador further bemoaned the institutional failures that often aid some of these Chinese into our country in the first place, and the lack of communication between our authorities and the Chinese embassy in Accra when it comes to the repatriation of some of these persons. He therefore urged closer collaboration between the two countries in fighting illegal mining in Ghana. Certainly, the government of China and the Chinese ambassador to Ghana will not be enthused with the bad impression that Mr. Yao Osafo-Maafo's disgraceful comments creates about the people of China. The ineluctable question is therefore why our senior minister would be telling the whole world that Ghana is ready to sell her birthright to China for a pittance. Why will governments be inviting the world that, come, we are ready to be exploited and raped? How did we get here? And what wrong have we done to President Akufo-Addo and his government? Now to Akufo-Addo's deceptive and failed fight against Galamsey. Distinguished friends from the media, the revelations by Mr. Osafo-Maafo present us an opportunity to do a postmortem of President Akufo-Addo's fight against illegal mining so far. Undoubtedly, the menace of illegal mining is the biggest threat to our environment and water security. This is what led the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining to declare a national war against the Kanka in 2017. President Akufo-Addo supposedly bought into this agenda and assured the nation that he was going to put his presidency on the line in support of this effort. Pursuant to his pledge, he set up the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining and constituted the Operation Vanguard Task Force to wage a brutal war against illegal mining in all parts of the country so as to preserve our environment from further destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worthy of note that owing to this fight, the Akufo-Addo government banned legal small-scale mining for almost 2 years. Here we are not talking about Galamsey. Galamsey is illegal and it cannot be banned because it is already illegal. We are talking about the ban of legal small-scale miners. Small-scale miners who are Ghanaians like you and I, who went through due process, followed the law, acquired concessions. As a result of that, some of them went to their bankers, procured loans, procured equipment for their mining activities, had their legitimate legal business banned for 2 years, all because of this fight. In the process, some Ghanaian small-scale miners were shot and killed at their duly licensed mining sites. Sure, the Kwabin, incident where over 5 small-scale miners were shot in a forest comes to mind readily. Several precious lives have been lost in the last 2 years, including, ladies and gentlemen, the sad and untimely death of a fine soldier, Major Maxwell Mahama, who left behind a very young family. Also, several small-scale miners have lost their lifetime investments and livelihoods, all as a result of this fight. Many have had their mining equipment destroyed through a selective and wicked implementation of the ban on small-scale mining. Also, many illegal miners have been arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. The country has expended millions of taxpayers' money on the activities of Operation Vanguard and the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. Sadly, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are today. The fight against illegal mining remains far from being won. As a matter of fact, it is in the final rounds of glaring defeat. The reason is obvious. The Akufo-Addo government was never committed to it in the first place. And we will expatiate on this further. Ladies and gentlemen, recently, ACE investigative journalist Anas Arimi Anas released a video documentary entitled Galamsey Fraud, which exposed various corrupt and underhand dealings by leading officials of the Akufo-Addo government associated with the Galamsey fight. One of such officials is Mr. Charles Bissiou, the secretary of the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining and a presidential staffer. Mr. Bissiou was caught on video receiving bribes and using his office to facilitate illegal mining activities in the country. He was caught on tape, I repeat, demanding and taking bribes, abusing his office and abusing his fiduciary relationship with the people of this country. But not just him. Another MPP operative caught on the video was Mr. Andy Owusu, an aide of the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Mr. Antwibu Esiako, a.k.a. Chairman Wuntumi. From Anas's Galamsey fraud documentary, Andy operated as the main connection man and basically served as a bribe-taking conduit between Mr. Charles Bissiou and prospective illegal miners. Sadly, in spite of the overwhelming audiovisual evidence of the criminal acts of Charles Bissiou and Andy Owusu, no action, I repeat, no action has been taken by President Akufo-Addo to punish them. Mr. Bissiou continues to work a free man and even has the temerity to appear at state functions, much to the chagrin of all Ghanaians across the world. This glaring inertia on the part of the Akufo-Addo government to punish Mr. Charles Bissiou and Andy Owusu for their crime is not only ample testimony of President Akufo-Addo's lack of commitment against Galamsey and corruption, but it is a monumental betrayal of our trust and mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, you see here, we are talking about a president who assured us that he was not going to countenance the activities of illegal mining. He promised us that he was going to put his presidency on the line. Today we have hard evidence, audiovisual evidence, which has captured no less a person than a presidential staffer who doubled as the secretary of the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining, taking bribes and actually promoting Galamsey. Yet, President Akufo-Addo has not uttered a word about this scandal. He has not done anything about it. And these people are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men. Ladies and gentlemen, apart from these damning revelations, several actors within the Akufo-Addo government have in one way or the other compromised the fight against Galamsey, while the president looks on unconcerned. It will be recalled that sometime in 2018, the Minister for Local Government, Honorable Hejia Alima Mahama, stated publicly that some MMDCs of this government were actively engaged in Galamsey and indicated that she was going to publicly disclose their identities and sanction them. However, till date, we still don't know the identities of the said MMDCs the minister talked about and what President Akufo-Addo has done about this case. And I'm sure this matter comes to mind readily. And on the screen is a graphic publication to that effect. Ministry to name and sack MMDCs engaged in Galamsey. So you come into office, you tell us that you will not countenance illegal mining, you constitute an interministerial committee against illegal mining, constitute Operation Vanguard, you spend millions of taxpayers' money on their operations, only for your own Minister of Local Government to tell us that your own MMDCs, this is not the NDC talking, this is Hejia Alima Mahama talking, Minister for Local Government. Your own MMDCs are engaged in Galamsey. She told us that she was going to name and shame and sanction those involved. Till date, ladies and gentlemen, we still don't know the said MMDCs engaged in Galamsey. President Akufo-Addo has done nothing about that. Nobody has been sanctioned. Nobody is being prosecuted and so on. And yet, the president will have us believe that he's genuinely committed to the fight against Galamsey. That cannot be the case in the face of this evidence. Again, the former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable John Peter Amewu, also made a startling observation that members of the Operation Vanguard team had been compromised by illegal miners. His observations were later corroborated by the Eastern Regional Minister, Honorable Eric Darfur. So, ladies and gentlemen, on your screen, as we usually do, you know this is the moment of truth, so we like to give evidence to buttress every allegation we make. Is Peter Amewu talking? This was a report filed by Graphic Online, dated May 24, 2017. And it says, soldiers protecting Galamsey sites. This is according to Honorable Amewu. And if you can move to the next one, you'll see that the Eastern Regional Minister also corroborated that. This is actually a story filed by My Joe Online. I don't know why that is not showing. But it says illegal miners are bribing Operation Vanguard team, according to the Eastern Regional Minister. So these pieces of evidence are coming from governments, coming from government officials. They themselves have been telling us how their own people are compromising this fight and undermining our environment. And yet, President Akufo-Addo has done nothing about it. The latest one, of course, came from the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Mr. Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie, a.k.a. Sir John, who stated that, quote, certain higher-ups in this government were undermining the Galamsey fight and were actually aiding the return of illegal miners to plunder our forest, unquote. This came from Sir John, that there are big people in this Akufo-Addo government who are undermining our collective resolve to deal with the canker of Galamsey. And that they've been aiding the return of illegal miners to plunder our forest. All these pieces of evidence pointed to the fact that the fight against illegal mining was heading in the wrong direction. Yet, President Akufo-Addo refused to investigate these reports and bring the culprits to book. Very characteristic of President Akufo-Addo, a man who talks much but delivers very little. The much touted fight against Galamsey has turned out to be yet another example of an empty rhetoric. Today, the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining and Operation Vanguard have been turned into active vehicles for facilitating and promoting Galamsey in this country. This has increased the spate of illegal mining and has intensified the degradation of our environment. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a fact. Water bodies which used to look yellowish in color when we were leaving office are today looking like chocolate. They are looking like brownish black because of the intense degradation of our environment. What we hear our president talk about, what we hear sometimes media men report, are just the empty rhetorics. But if you go on the ground, you realize that activities of illegal miners are going up. And here, we are talking about illegal mining being done by foreign nationals. Because that is what the likes of Charles Bissiou and Andy Owusu were doing. They take the duly acquired license concessions of Ghanaians and they give it to Chinese because, according to them, Chinese are more human than Ghanaians. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, in conclusion, the fact that President Akufo-Addo's fight against Galamsey has failed is no longer in dispute. The spectacular failure of the supposed anti-Galamsey fight underscores what we all know to be the truth, that President Akufo-Addo's policies and offerings, most of the times, are instituted for self-aggrandizement, but are in reality an avenue for crooked members of his party and government to line their pockets through corrupt means. In the circumstances, the NDC demand that President Akufo-Addo overhauls the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining and urgently reviews his approach to the fight against illegal mining. This is the time for President Akufo-Addo to rise above his sweet but hollow rhetorics and start to walk the talk. He must show genuine commitment and dedication to the fight against illegal mining. We charge him as a matter of urgency to weed out and bring to book all corrupt officials, starting with Mr. Charles Bisiu, who have compromised and undermined our collective fight against illegal mining. With regards to Osafo Malfo's insulting and disgraceful comments, it is our view that the senior minister already communicated. Let me take that again. It is our view, ladies and gentlemen, that the senior minister only communicated the position of President Akufo-Addo and his government. And we have already articulated that. This is the reason government has so far not had the courage to denounce or contradict him. The Akufo-Addo government has amply demonstrated that, like the biblical Esau, the interest of the people of Ghana matters little when it comes to instant gratification. Despite what he said about caring for the next generation more than the next election, all that matters to Akufo-Addo is to obtain money at all costs so as to do some projects that they hope will help them to win election 2020. However, we know beyond a shadow of doubt that the Ghanaian people will punish President Akufo-Addo for this monumental betrayal of our trust and mandate. Thank you very much for your attention, and may God make our nation great and strong. Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, permit me to do a quick summary in Twi for the benefit of the Twi speaking stations who are here present. Yen nuanom centralfoɔ ne mpanyinfoɔ a ɛne awie yɛde ahyia mu. Dedi kan yɛma mo wakɔ aba biom to yen office. Ɛnɛ ɛne ɛda a yɛyɛ yɛ moment of truth dwumadi a ɛtɔ so 9. Na ne dwumadi no fa ɛyɛ ɔman Ghana ɛko a yɛboa yɛ mampanyi Akufo-Addo na yɛatimi atu ade a yɛfrɛ no galamsey ana illegal mining ase.
Thank you so much for staying here on the Joy News channel. Just gone by, before we brought you those messages, the NDC's Communications Director, Sammy Gyamfi, was addressing the 4th edition of their Speak the Truth Forum, and they've been basically talking about the recent declaration by the Senior Minister, Yaw Osafo Malfo, on why Aisha One was deported late 2018. You will remember that the Galamsey Queen was arrested for her involvement in illegal mining activities and was prosecuted. She was going through court processes, and then all we heard was that, well, the state had filed no case against her, and so she was deported. And at the time, the Attorney General was petitioned by the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, and they were seeking answers. The coalition wanted answers to why the Galamsey Queen was let off the hook. At the time, the minister to the the secretary, I beg your pardon, to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisiu, came to back the Attorney General's decision to let go of the case. And last week, Senior Minister Yaw Osafo Malfo, addressing some Ghanaians outside the country, hinted that keeping Aisha One, as she's popularly been called, will not put food on the table of Ghanaians, and many reacted in different ways to this particular statement. A lot of people were taken aback by these comments, and today the NDC is reacting to this. Now, they believe that Ghana should learn from the recent conviction of another Chinese ivory queen in Tanzania for her illegal dealings in ivory tax, and they think that this is what we should be learning from. And they also say that it is embarrassing and shameful and for the senior minister to justify government's decision, or the state's decision, to let Aisha one off the hook and deport her. Now, they say that the senior minister's subsequent clarification, if you may be aware, when this became quite controversial on Facebook, the senior minister's office posted some information trying to clarify what he exactly meant by what he said. And we are being told by the NDC that these clarifications means that government has lost the fight against the menace, and they are actually claiming that this fight, government has failed in its quest to deal with illegal mining. We will take you back to the NDC's headquarters shortly. We are expecting a question and answer session there, and just gone by you heard Sami Jemfi, who is communications director of the party, explaining the party's position with regards to this fight against Galamsey, also talking about why they believe that government has failed the fight. We will be bringing you more here on Joy News, hopefully when we are able to establish a link. I hear we've lost the link, but do stay here with us on the Joy News channel. Definitely there will be more analysis on this in our subsequent bulletins.